I'm Bill McWilliam, president of Cascadero Copper, CCD on the TSX Venture Exchange. Cesium is one of the world's rarest metals with a growing industrial demand. Drilling is underway on our Tehran property in Argentina to prove up a cesium resource. Cascadero's patent-pending leach process has the potential to make Cascadero the lowest cost supplier of cesium in the world. Visit our website, cascadero.com, or phone us at 604-924-5504.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Stewart Muir, Executive Director of the Resource Works Society. Welcome back to the show, Stewart.
Thank you, Jim.
You've just returned from a very exciting trip in India, or from India. What happened there, and why was it so exciting?
Well, it was exciting to be part of a conference on the future of mining and technology in India, mainly because it's a story about how Canada and India are going to work together. I was down there in New Delhi with a number of experts from Canada, other places in the world, including Australia, and we were greeted by a number of ministers from the federal government of India. This is the second most populous country in the world. The stats on India, and I know you are a real maven for India stats, Jim. It really is mind-blowing, the scale of almost everything in India.
Well, for example, they have one of the youngest populations in the world, so they're growing. That's a great demographic if you're going to do business. And they graduate something like 20 million people from colleges and universities every year. So they have lots of nice young minds to work with as well. Well,
they do, and, you know, the potential to use the high-level computer education that they're getting. A lot of them want to work in Mumbai, where it's their Silicon Valley, and they have so much innovation going on. There's so many startups that happen every year by the thousands or tens of thousands, and people are always looking for the next big thing. And when you marry that with the fact that they have to get ready to change their economy, they're looking for cleaner forms of energy. They want solar panels, they want wind, they want more efficient use of natural gas. More people want to drive cars, and they want to do that in a way that doesn't pollute their cities. So all of this points to the challenge of taking bright minds and solving big problems, and that's where Canada comes in.
Why are they so enamored with the Canadian mining industry, and what kind of lessons they can learn from it?
Well, we're just the acknowledged leader. Maybe if we're challenged, it's by Australia, but between our two countries, there's really no one else who combines the capital raising, the technology, the processes, the experience over a long time in doing very challenging mining development, and most importantly of all, doing it sustainably. You know, these are the things that everyone wants, to be able to become more independent, so they get the minerals and metals that they need, and then do so in a way that preserves the values they have in the landscape. Because unfortunately, if you look around India, it's a country with a culture that's 5,000 years old. They've had metals like gold that are culturally important. They've had lots of other things they've mined in the past. And if you look around the landscape, they have a lot of examples of how they don't want to be doing it in future. And we are the country that can help them to make sure they're not doing it like they used to.
Well, we know India has no problem providing the labor force to exploit mineral resources. Do they have the resources to exploit, and do they need more exploration?
Well, you've nailed it, because right now probably less than 10% of the Indian landmass has been explored, and it's safe to say that almost nothing is known, very little is known of the offshore resources. But just on the land, there are already signs that Canadian companies are doing some exploration. I was told about one project down in the south where there's active exploration underway with a Canadian company. So far in the history of India, no mine, I'm told, has gone deeper than 300 feet. And as I said to the audience there, that's the depth of the Taj Mahal, if you put it underground. And in Canada, we've been creating mines 34 Taj Mahals deep in northern Ontario. We know a little something about going down to where those ore deposits are located, no matter where they are, at a depth below the Earth's surface.
Were they impressed with the new technologies that have come into mining over, say, just the last 1 or 2 years?
Yeah, and I think if you bring that story together, you can talk about all the different things like the virtual twin of a mine. Imagine that there's a mine or a mine you're developing, and you wanted to do that in real time, real rocks, breaking those rocks, moving them. But at the same time, you wanted to have a digital picture of it. What they're now doing is creating a so-called digital twin where all of the information they've got about the mine, they can actually replicate that in 3D in a computer, so you can simulate that. And just imagine what you can then do when you've got such a picture in the hands of people who know what to do with it. That's one example. But where it's summed up is in things like what a company like Goldcorp is doing with their Disrupt Mining program, and Barrick is doing a program similar to that. There's a lot of people talking about disrupting mining because there's a sense that maybe the ceiling of current practices has been reached, and it's time to bust through that ceiling, rethink things, and that's really something that's emanated from Canada, from our Canadian Institute of Mining Research. I'll be going to their conference, I hope, in June in Toronto. People like that are just turning it upside down and bringing the bright minds in that maybe would be going off to other areas, and we need them in geophysics, geology, and in these earth sciences. And so I think the industry is really preoccupied right now with making mining an exciting place to be if you're choosing a career.
What kind of coverage did you get with your meetings with the Indian government?
Well, we arrived there, and I discovered that because our hosts for this, people organizing the event, are CNN and MSNBC, the Indian versions. They have their own versions of those networks there. We were broadcast live on national Indian television, which is quite a thing to get your head around when you consider there's 1.3 billion people there. And we had a visit from the Minister for Power. There's a name for a minister, isn't it? Minister for Power. But of course that means energy and electricity, who spoke to us passionately about the need for India to not only become more energy independent, but also to be on a path to decarbonize for the future. We heard from the Minister of Natural Gas. If you had any doubt that LNG is a real thing for BC, the India State Oil Company is invested in British Columbia LNG development. They've got a 10% stake in one of the biggest of the LNG plants on the coast. They really need that. We heard that directly from the Minister of State for Natural Gas, who had just come from the Parliament, and that's their future, to clean up the air and allow there to be greater energy prosperity and less energy poverty, which is one of the big things holding back their economy.
Does India get ignored? We always talk about how China's booming along. Japan, although it's not the monster it used to be, gets a lot of attention. Do we still kind of ignore India?
I heard that the Indian people are ones who have understood for a long time that the relationship with Canada is a special one, in part because of the Commonwealth. We've been in this group of nations that originally was the British Commonwealth, and Britain's not so important in it anymore, although they're still I think a traditional figurehead of it, but it's become a very different thing. And Canada is in some ways the leader of the Commonwealth as a country that is in the G7, that's got these developed industries like mining that it can share amongst the Commonwealth nations. And so there's that linkage there. And so I heard directly from many of the Indian industry leaders, the politicians I was speaking to, the journalists and policy people, that, they sort of expect there to be a special conversation with India. And I heard that too from the High Commissioner of Canada in India, who I met with before going to the conference, who just impressed upon us that in many years they had not seen as much attention on a Canadian project as with this conference. That it's a moment when India is waking up to the fact that the reforms of Prime Minister Modi, who has really aggressively tried to make India a modern nation in a regulatory sense, and stripping away a lot of the rules that have made it very difficult to do business with India or in India. Just as it's entering this age, now they are saying, who are we going to work with? And they want to work with Canada.
There's so much talk of China surpassing the U.S. as the world's economic giant. But right after China, you hear about India because they're a democracy, they have a chance to be more flexible, and that'll give them a chance to pass China as the world's economic driver.
Well, when you talk to the people in mining who have a foresight, a vision for where the industry is headed, one of the things you will usually hear them say first is transparency. If you want to be successful operating in democracies and you're a mining company and your way of doing business is to, seem secretive or keep things under your hat because you think that's the way to do business, that's not going to fly in modern India. You have to be ready to go in there, share the risks, rewards, share the work, share the benefits, and make that a transparent process. That's just going to be expected. In a place like India, you can do that. In a place like China, I don't think too many people would just expect that transparency is even in the top 5 qualities of business success there. It's other things. So because we have our long history of having to be transparent, having to ensure our mining projects meet incredibly high standards that are surpassed nowhere in the world, it really isn't something that Canadians have to think through when they go on and operate in a foreign country. And I think that's why there's quite a few Canadians involved in India, quite a few Canadians interested in the potential there. It's just a no-brainer to say, look, you've got some questions about our project. You want to find out if it's right for your community, or you're wondering if it's got hazards. Let's talk about that. Let's get it on the table. It's what Canadians have been doing around the world for many years.
Why is India so willing to work with Canada?
I think it sees that because of our geophysics. I mean, it gets into a kind of technical area. Geophysics, the Geological Survey of Canada has mapped out our nation to a degree that we have a pretty comprehensive understanding of where the mineral resources are that are exploitable, and we have a kind of sequential approach to them. It's always open, I suppose, to the geological genius coming along with an incredible find, but all of this is based on there being solid, methodical research conducted over a very long period of time, led by government, that creates a repository of open source information that those who are in the industry can access and contribute to and draw from. If you're in a place like India that's also a large landmass, but has got none of these repositories of information that are openly accessible, that are up to date, then you're not on the map yet as a mining center. So there's already a partnership where the government of India, the Geological Survey of India, has sent its technical people to Ottawa to work with our geological survey teams to figure out what they need to do. So this is happening now. It's real, and it's making change. And so it's right away one of the reasons why this is a no-brainer relationship for Canada to keep investing in.
Any more conferences planned with the Indian government?
Well, it was such a success. I think the organizers, even the people at CNN, I met the chief political correspondent for CNN for India, the world's largest democracy. This is someone who's got a lot of insight into the affairs there. They were pretty blown away because we had so much coverage. Clearly it's something that is of public interest right now. And so there was a lot of talk about next year. And I said, hey, if you want me back, just let me know. I would be more than happy to come back and dig deeper into this, because we really only just scraped over the surface. We had a great talk from Pierre Gratton, who's the president of the Mining Association of Canada. He came out from I guess Toronto for this, and they clearly valued that.
We'll have more with Stewart Muir right after the break.
I'm Douglas Mason, President and CEO of Rainy Mountain Royalty Corp., RMO on the TSX Venture Exchange. Rainy Mountain's Brunswick property is located in the Rideout Shear Zone in Ontario. With grab samples running as high as 32 grams per ton gold, a drill program will commence this spring to test the numerous targets located by recent groundwork. For more information, visit our website, rmroyalty.com.
Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company. with significant projects in British Columbia, Saskatchewan, and the Yukon. Trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the pink symbol ABN-AF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Stewart Muir. Stewart, with a BC election coming up on May 9th, what kind of policies have you heard from the various parties about how they want to have sustainable natural resource development in the province?
Well, when you put it that way, it sounds like something that everyone would be interested in supporting. And I think you'll see the platforms of the parties all saying that they do support sustainable natural resource development. It's when you start to get into the details of what that means that I think you begin to see a little more definition for each party and its wheelhouse. I would say at this point in time, based on what I've seen, the NDP platform just came out this morning, and I must confess I haven't delved fully into it, but I've skimmed it briefly. I don't think there's any great surprises on the resource front. We know where people stand. I think the Green Party has done an excellent job of carving out a niche for itself with a very, very clear proposition. They've got well-known faces like David Suzuki, who this week are coming out to Green Party events to say, if you care about my issues, here's the party for you. So if you're a Suzuki fan, that's something to consider. The NDP, they have got the emphasis that party has on the social side, on building social programs and elevating the services that people receive from government, because that's I think deeply in their ethos. The BC Liberals, really no surprises. Their platform document came out a few days ago. There's been a little more time to digest it and see what the reaction is to it. And again, no big surprises there.
Would one be too presumptive to say the Liberals, let's just dig the hell out of the ground and throw the dirt wherever we want? The NDP, do that to some extent. In the Greens, there's no way in hell you're digging up anything anywhere. Would we be stupid to think that way? Should we look at their websites and really explore what their policies are?
Well, it was funny yesterday to see, I think one of the CBC commentators from down east described the BC Liberal Party as a conservative party, the Conservative Party of BC. And, that one really stopped me because it's been quite a while since I ever thought of the BC Liberals as being the Conservative Party of BC, because it's this big tent. It's got your your federal Liberals, many of them find a home in it, and the Conservatives, many of them find a home in it, and it's not always harmonious, but they seem to find a way to keep that coalition together, as they've done, not unbrokenly, but most of the time since 1952, or in some ways before then. So that's a long tradition of the center right, if you will, finding common cause. I think it would be unfair to the BC Liberals to say they're just chop it down thoughtlessly or dig it up thoughtlessly. We've seen in the case of mining some extremely stringent rules brought in. The mining industry was not happy about a lot of the regulations that followed the Mount Poly incident, and that was something they've made very clear. The government they grumblingly accepted that when you have a disaster of that type, it's going to have consequences, and they sucked it up. But I think they were disappointed that the government was as harsh with them. So I think the government has done the right thing. They've brought in regulations for methane escape from upstream natural gas production. They've really tightened the screws on a lot of the forestry activity on the coast. It was on the government's watch that the Great Bear Rainforest Agreement was brought in that by my calculation sequesters about 7,000 Stanley Parks worth of BC coastal land from development. So if that's a signal of a traditional, reckless resource mandate, I don't see that connection anymore. I really think they have evolved into an environmentally responsible agenda, and that just runs through the platform. I think the NDP also have environmental responsibility. Part of what they do, they are, speaking their truths to these issues in their way. I think the opposition to the Kinder Morgan pipeline is based on principles that one can't dispute, have these principles. I do think, though, that the ability of Canadians to do pipelines just as well as any other country, or probably better, is something that most British Columbians have confidence in. There may be a good chunk who can be swayed the other way. And I also think that a lot of British Columbians have confidence that it's possible to ship crude oil over the water by oil tanker to its market overseas. It's something that can be done safely. I think there is confidence in that. And it is a bit unfortunate that we have political parties that don't have confidence in Canadian professionals and Canadian workers, Canadian regulators to get the job done right, because it means that we will not be able to pay for the things we need as we take our options off the table for our economy. So it's a little frightening what the world might look like if we can't have the oil sands as an economic driver in Canada, or can't have LNG, can't have the BC natural gas in the economy. What do we replace it with? I'm not sure what the answers are.
We'll have more with Stewart Muir right after this.
I'm Larry Ray, President and CEO of American Manganese, Inc., listed on the TSX Venture, ticker symbol AMY, A-M-Y, with proprietary patents in the U.S., China, and South Africa. Our focus is on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. China recently legislated the responsibility for recycling onto their electric vehicle manufacturers and importers. For more information, please visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Keep informed. Receive our weekly recap of thought-provoking articles, podcasts, and radio delivered to your inbox for free. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage, HowStreet.com. Welcome back. We're chatting with Stewart Muir. Stewart, you have some exciting news for the Resource Works Society.
Well, yes, that's right. And, just today we've decided that with the people who are running the Resources for Future Generations Conference in 2018, that's a little ways off, we're going to be partnering with them. They're bringing 5,000 delegates from around the world to Vancouver to talk about these issues around how do you have sustainability over the long term from natural resources. It couldn't be more timely. It couldn't be in a better place. So that was today's news, Jim.
Well, you say it's a long way off, but I covered the Vancouver 2010 Olympics, and I know when they were first announced, they seemed like they were a long way off to it, and the next thing you know, they're right in your lap. So.
Well, the organizers with a scale event of this type, I'm sure that they're working hard there, and we're pretty pleased to be part of the partnership team.
Who do you expect to be there?
Well, we're going to have scientists and resource people who are academics. They're from industry, they're from government, policy, think tanks, and bringing their heads together around these issues.
Stewart, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thank you, Jim. I always enjoy our conversations.
And have a great long weekend.
Thank you. My
guest has been Stewart Muir, Executive Director of the Resource Works Society. His website, resourceworks.com. You're listening to HowStreet.com radio. Find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet. Our very popular YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Questions for our guests or for the show can be sent to info@HowStreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Have yourselves a great long weekend.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.